I'm Molly and this is Brooke, and we're from Trinity High School in Rutherglen, and we're a part of the Voice Network. We want to thank you, First Minister, for agreeing to be interviewed by us. We are two of the many young people who helped plan the Cost of School Day Young Person Summit, and we wanted to ask about some of the things you've heard here today.
Today we shared our vision of what Scotland free of child poverty can look like. What more does your government plan to do to make this a reality?
I think the first thing I'd say, Brooke, is that the idea you just put to me for Scotland free of child poverty is an idea that I really like. I think that's what I'm trying to do. I think child poverty is a huge impediment, an obstacle for our society, because we need to make sure every young person is able to fulfil their potential. And if they grow up in an environment of poverty, that's likely to be an obstacle for them. So what we've got to do is to make sure that we use every power and resource available to us to try to make a difference. So measures such as the Scottish Child Payment helps to improve family incomes, to strengthen family budgets. We're just about to remove the 2-child limit on the support for families, which will make sure that families get more support, and that will help to put more money into families that are struggling. And we've also got to make sure that our schools are well supported, particularly in areas of deprivation, to make sure that they can enable and support children and young people to be able to overcome the effects of poverty. So we'll constantly search for different measures, and I'm really keen to hear what today produces as ideas and points so that I can see if the government can take those forward.
Our voices are important, but we can't vote, so how's your government going to make sure children and young people are heard by decision makers about issues like child poverty?
It's important that we find the right means to engage with young people. So we listen a lot to some of the material and the thinking that comes out of the Young Scot Network. So they do lots of very good opinion gathering exercises. Today is another good example. I've come here today to make sure that I could hear firsthand your thoughts and your ideas. So we've got to find different ways of listening directly. And I know that my Education Secretary, Jenny Gilruth, is actively engaged in schools all the time, listening to the voices of young people and making sure that we understand the perspectives of young people as part of as taking forward the government's agenda.
What should every young person in Scotland get from their education?
They should get the ability to take forward the rest of their life. So they should get foundations that will enable them to be able to be active participants in our society. I want young people to be engaged in our education system for as long as possible so that they can achieve those foundations. And then with those foundations, they can then go on to make a contribution to society as taxpayers, as employees, as workers within our society.
After today, what message are you going to be taking back to your government?
I'm going to take back to the government the fact that I've met some really strong voices of young people who are determined to make sure the government succeeds in this agenda. We're going through a process just now, which is really very significant for the government. We're working up towards the setting of the government's budget for next year and our spending priorities for a 3-year period. So it's important that we think about child poverty right at the heart of that agenda, because often it's how you spend money is what determines the direction of travel of government, and we've got to make sure we're doing the right things on child poverty.
Today we've been sharing with one another all the ways that schools can help with the cost of the school day. What more can the government do to make sure schools have enough money to support families?
One of the things I think that's been really good has been the direct financial support we've been able to give to schools through pupil equity funding. And that's given schools much more choice about how to spend money and to address the unique circumstances in every school, because schools are not all the same around the country. There's a huge variation in circumstances. So pupil equity funding, which recognises where there is deprivation in our society, that allows schools to decide how to spend money to make most effect in overcoming poverty.
Have you got a message for all the children and young people in the Cost of School Day Voice Network?
What I would say is 2 things, and make sure your voice is heard, right? Make sure your voice is heard. It's so important that young people are able to influence their country and their government, and I'm listening. And the second thing I would say is be creative. Think about how things are for you today and think about, well, how could we do things differently and better, and make sure I hear about it and I'll listen carefully.
Thank you so much for talking to us, First Minister. We will show the other young people this video, as we know they'll be really interested in what you had to say. We promise the best biscuits and we never break a promise.
Well, here you are. Well, that's a good lesson for a politician. Keep your promises, and I'll keep my promises on eradicating child poverty. Thank you for the biscuits and thank you for the interview.
You're welcome.